For 3 years, a millionaire's daughter remained in a coma. Then a homeless boy appeared out of nowhere, claiming he could help her with a simple touch. What happened next was something no one could have predicted. The millionaire was never the same again. If this story interested you, subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to like this video and tell us which city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. The soft, rhythmic beeping of medical machines had become the soundtrack of Ethan Prescott's life. For 3 long years, he had sat in the same chair in the same room at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston, watching his daughter Lily breathe through tubes and wires. Her small body lay motionless on the stark white bed, her chestnut hair spread across the pillow like a halo, her eyes closed in what the doctors called a persistent vegetative state, but what Ethan refused to accept as anything other than a deep sleep from which she would eventually awaken. Outside the window, Boston's skyline shimmered under a gray October sky. Rain tapped against the glass, creating a melancholic melody that matched Ethan's mood. 3 years ago, on a similar rainy night, their lives had changed forever when their luxury sedan hydroplaned on the slick surface of Route 93. The images still haunted him: shattered glass, the smell of gasoline, muffled screams, and then the most terrifying silence he had ever heard. "Mr. Prescott," a gentle voice pulled him from his memories. Nurse Amanda Wheeler stood at the doorway, her kind eyes filled with the same sympathy he had grown to both appreciate and resent. "Dr. Harrison would like to speak with you when you have a moment." Ethan nodded, his hand never leaving Lily's. "Tell him I'll be there shortly." Once considered one of Boston's most influential tech entrepreneurs, Ethan Prescott was now barely recognizable. His once immaculate appearance had given way to perpetual stubble, deep-set eyes, and a gauntness that spoke of meals forgotten and nights without sleep. The man who had once commanded boardrooms and closed million-dollar deals now spoke only in hushed tones to his unconscious daughter, reading her favorite stories and describing the changing seasons outside her window. "Sweet pea," he whispered, leaning close to Lily's ear. "I have to step out for a bit, but I'll be right back. Keep fighting, okay? Daddy loves you more than anything in this world." He pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead before reluctantly leaving the room. The hospital corridors, with their antiseptic smell and fluorescent lighting, had become as familiar to him as the halls of his now-abandoned office building. Ethan walked slowly toward Dr. Harrison's office, dreading what he suspected would be another conversation about realistic expectations and quality-of-life decisions. Dr. Nathan Harrison was waiting behind his desk, his expression serious but compassionate. Beside him sat Dr. Rebecca Chen, the neurologist who had been overseeing Lily's case since the beginning. "Ethan, please, have a seat," Dr. Harrison gestured to the chair across from him. "I prefer to stand," Ethan replied, his voice hoarse from disuse. "What is it this time?" Dr. Chen cleared her throat. "Mr. Prescott, we've been monitoring Lily's brain activity closely, and I'm afraid there haven't been any significant changes. It's been 3 years now, and..." "And what?" Ethan challenged, his hands balling into fists at his sides. "You're going to tell me to give up on my daughter? Again?" "No one is suggesting you give up," Dr. Harrison interjected calmly. "But we do need to discuss long-term care options. The hospital resources..." "Money isn't an issue," Ethan cut in. "I've made that clear from day one." "This isn't about money," Dr. Chen said gently. "It's about what's best for Lily. The human body isn't designed to remain in this state indefinitely. There are complications: muscle atrophy, susceptibility to infections, organ function decline." Ethan closed his eyes, willing away the tears that threatened to fall. "She's still in there, I know she is." "Ethan," Dr. Harrison's voice softened, "we've run every test, tried every treatment protocol available. The latest scans show minimal cerebral activity. At some point, we need to consider whether continuing life support is truly in Lily's best interest." The words hit Ethan like physical blows. He had heard them before in various forms over the years, but never so direct, never so final. "Are you asking me to disconnect my daughter from life support?" The question hung in the air, heavy and terrible. "We're asking you to think about what Lily would want," Dr. Chen answered, "to consider her quality of life, her comfort, her dignity. She would want to live. Ethan's voice rose, echoing off the walls of the small office. She would want her father to fight for her until there wasn't a single breath left in his body. "We understand this is difficult," Dr. Harrison began. "No, you don't understand," Ethan interrupted, his voice breaking. "You can't possibly understand. She's all I have. She's my whole world." "We'd like you to take some time to think about it," Dr. Chen said. "Maybe speak with our counseling services. This isn't a decision that needs to be made today." Ethan turned away, unable to look at their faces any longer. "There's no decision to be made. As long as there's even the slightest chance she could wake up, I won't give up on her." He left the office without another word, his heart pounding in his chest. The walk back to Lily's room felt longer than usual, each step heavier than the last. Halfway there, he couldn't go on. The weight of the doctor's words, the implied finality of their prognosis, was too much to bear. Ethan found himself pushing through the doors to the hospital's small courtyard garden. The rain had stopped, leaving behind a glistening wetness on the benches and stone pathways. The air was cold, but he barely felt it. He collapsed onto a bench, buried his face in his hands, and for the first time in months, allowed himself to break down completely. His sobs echoed in the empty garden, raw and agonizing. He cried for the vibrant little girl who loved ballet and butterflies, for the sound of her laughter, that he feared he might never hear again, for the future that had been stolen from both of them on that rainy night 3 years ago. "Mister, are you okay?" The small voice startled Ethan. He looked up, hastily wiping his eyes, to find a boy standing before him. The child couldn't have been more than 10 years old, with tousled sandy hair and remarkably intense blue eyes. He wore faded jeans and a red hoodie that seemed too big for his slight frame. "I'm fine," Ethan managed, embarrassed to be caught in such a vulnerable state. "Just having a rough day." The boy tilted his head, studying Ethan with an unnerving perceptiveness. "You're sad about someone who's sick." It wasn't a question. Ethan stared at the child, perplexed. "How did you know that?" "I can tell," the boy said simply. He sat down on the bench beside Ethan, uninvited but somehow not unwelcome. "Is it someone you love very much?" "My daughter," Ethan found himself answering. "Her name is Lily. She's been asleep for a very long time." The boy nodded, solemnly. "I know about people like that. They're not really asleep, though. They're just caught between here and somewhere else." Ethan frowned, studying the strange child more carefully. "What's your name?" "Max," the boy replied. "Max Sullivan." Ethan studied the boy with curiosity. There was something oddly familiar about him, though he couldn't place it. "Are you a patient here, Max?" Max shook his head. "No, I just come here sometimes." His eyes, remarkably clear and bright, seemed to look straight through Ethan. "Your daughter can come back, you know." A chill ran down Ethan's spine. "What did you say?" "Lily, she can come back from where she is." Max spoke with such certainty that for a brief, irrational moment Ethan almost believed him. "How do you know her name?" "I don't think I mentioned it." Max shrugged. "I just know things sometimes." He stood up, his small hands tucked into the pockets of his oversized hoodie. "Don't let them convince you to give up on her. She's still there." Before Ethan could respond, a woman's voice called out from across the courtyard. "Max, there you are!" A nurse hurried toward them, relief evident on her face. "I've been looking everywhere for you. You know you're not supposed to wander off like that." "Sorry, Ms. Jenkins," Max replied, not sounding particularly apologetic. He turned back to Ethan. "I have to go now, but I'll see you again." The nurse gave Ethan an apologetic smile. "I hope he wasn't bothering you, sir." "No, not at all," Ethan said, still puzzled by the strange encounter. "Is he?" "Max is with our pediatric wing," the nurse explained vaguely, placing a protective hand on the boy's shoulder. "Come on, Max. Time to go back inside." Ethan watched them leave, the boy's words echoing in his mind. The encounter had been bizarre, yet somehow he felt a lightness in his chest that hadn't been there before. With a deep breath, He stood and made his way back to Lily's room, trying to shake off the strange feeling that something significant had just happened. When he returned to Lily's room, he found his mother, Patricia Prescott, sitting by the bedside, her elegant hands clasped around her granddaughter's small fingers. At 65, Patricia still maintained the poised, dignified appearance she'd cultivated as the wife of a prominent Boston judge. Her silver hair was impeccably styled, her clothes expensive but understated. "The nurses told me you were speaking with the doctors," she said by way of greeting, her voice soft but strained. "What did they say?" Ethan sank into the chair opposite. "Her? The same thing they've been saying for months, that I should consider alternatives." Patricia's eyes, so like his own, filled with tears. "Oh, Ethan, I won't." "Do it, Mom. I can't." His mother reached across the bed to squeeze his hand. "I know, sweetheart. I wouldn't expect you to." They sat in silence for a while, the only sounds in the room the steady beep of monitors and the soft whoosh of the ventilator. Ethan's mind drifted back to the life they'd had before the accident, a life that now seemed to belong to someone else entirely. 3 years ago, Ethan Prescott had been at the pinnacle of success. His software company, Prescott Tech, had revolutionized data security systems, making him one of Boston's most eligible bachelors and most admired entrepreneurs. He had the penthouse overlooking the Charles River, the vacation home in Cape Cod, the contacts in Silicon Valley, and a future that seemed limitless. Then came Lily, an unexpected blessing from a brief relationship with Rebecca Winters, a brilliant architect he'd met at a charity gala. Though their romance had fizzled out before Lily was born, Ethan had embraced fatherhood with the same passion and dedication he brought to his business ventures. He and Rebecca had established an amicable co-parenting arrangement, with Lily splitting her time between her parents' homes. The night of the accident, Ethan had been driving Lily back to Rebecca's after a weekend together. They'd gone to the ballet, eaten ice cream despite the chilly weather, and played for hours in his home office, Lily pretending to be a business lady like her daddy. She'd been chattering excitedly about her upcoming ballet recital when the rain started to pour and visibility became poor on the highway. Ethan had no memory of the impact itself, just the horrifying aftermath. He'd awakened to the sound of sirens and the sight of paramedics working frantically on his daughter's tiny body. His injuries had been minor, a dislocated shoulder, some cuts and bruises, but Lily had taken the brunt of the collision. By the time they reached the hospital, she was already in critical condition. "Have you heard from Rebecca lately?" Patricia's question pulled him back to the present. Ethan shook his head. "Not since last month. She's still in Switzerland with that architect she's been seeing." After the first year of Lily's coma, Rebecca had gradually pulled away. The grief had been too much, she'd said. She needed to move on, to build a life that wasn't centered around hospital visits and false hopes. Ethan had been furious, unable to comprehend how a mother could move on from her child. Their relationship, already strained, had deteriorated completely. Now, Rebecca sent occasional emails inquiring about Lily's condition, but she hadn't visited in over a year. "She's running away from the pain," Patricia said gently. "Not everyone can face it the way you do day after day." "She's her mother," Ethan replied, the old bitterness rising in his throat. "She should be here." Patricia sighed but didn't argue. Instead, she changed the subject. "The board called again. Yesterday. They're concerned about the company." Ethan ran a hand through his disheveled hair. Prescott Tech had been operating under interim leadership since the accident. At first, Ethan had tried to maintain some involvement, working remotely from Lily's hospital room. But as days turned into weeks and weeks into months, his focus had narrowed to a single priority: his daughter. The company he'd built from nothing was now barely on his radar. "They can replace me permanently if they want," he said flatly. "I don't care anymore." "Ethan," Patricia leaned forward, her expression serious. "I know Lily is your priority. She's mine too. But you've poured your heart and soul into that company. It's your legacy. And when—" She paused, correcting herself. "When Lily wakes up, she'll need more than just a father who's been sitting by her bedside. She'll need the man you were, the strong, passionate, driven man who inspired so many people. Ethan looked at his daughter's peaceful face, at the delicate features that reminded him so much of his own. 6 years old when the accident happened, she would be 9 now. Had she been conscious, she would be in 4th grade, playing with friends, learning about the world. Instead, she lay here, suspended in time, while the world moved on without her. And I don't know how to be that man anymore, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Everything I was, everything I cared about, it all seems so meaningless now. Patricia stood, coming around the bed to place her hands on her son's shoulders. You are still that man, Ethan. He's just buried beneath all this grief and waiting. But he's still there. Ethan closed his eyes, leaning into his mother's touch. What if the doctors are right, Mom? What if she never wakes up? What if I'm just prolonging her suffering? The questions that had been haunting him for years finally spilled out, and with them fresh tears. Patricia knelt beside his chair, taking his face in her hands the way she had when he was a child afraid of thunderstorms. Listen to me, Ethan James Prescott. That little girl is a fighter just like her father. If there's even the slightest chance she can come back to us, we have to believe in it. We have to give her that chance. As his mother held him, Ethan thought again of the strange boy in the courtyard. Don't let them convince you to give up on her. She's still there. I met someone today, he said suddenly. A boy. He told me Lily could come back. Patricia pulled away slightly, confusion evident on her face. A boy? What boy? His name is Max. He was in the courtyard. There was something different about him. Ethan struggled to explain the feeling the encounter had given him. He knew things he shouldn't have known. Patricia frowned, concern etching deeper lines into her forehead. Ethan, sweetheart, you're exhausted. You've barely slept in days. Maybe this boy was just... He was real, Mom, Ethan insisted, rising from his chair. The nurse called him by name. She said he was from the pediatric wing. His mother's expression softened. Even if he was real, honey, you can't put stock in the words of a child. He probably just overheard something and was trying to be kind in his own way. Ethan wanted to argue further, but was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Chen, who entered carrying a tablet and wearing a grave expression that instantly set Ethan on edge. Mr. Prescott, Mrs. Prescott, she greeted them with a nod. I've been reviewing Lily's latest test results, and I'd like to discuss them with you. Patricia squeezed Ethan's hand. We're listening, Doctor. Dr. Chen pulled up a chair and sat, her posture professional, yet compassionate. As you know, we've been monitoring Lily's brain activity very closely. The EEG patterns have remained consistent over the past 6 months, showing minimal response to stimuli. She turned the tablet toward them, displaying a series of wave patterns. That meant nothing to Ethan. All he could see were lines that didn't spike or change, lines that didn't show the vibrant, active mind he knew his daughter possessed. Additionally, Dr. Chen continued, we're seeing signs of muscle atrophy that's becoming more pronounced despite our physical therapy efforts. Her body is growing weaker, and her immune system is compromised. She's becoming more susceptible to infections, which is why we've had to increase her antibiotic regimen twice in the past month. Ethan stared at Lily's small form, at the tubes and wires that had become extensions of her body. She looked so fragile, so vulnerable, yet to him she was still perfect. What exactly are you saying, Dr. Chen? Patricia asked, her voice steady but strained. The neurologist took a deep breath. I believe it's time to have a serious discussion about Lily's long-term prognosis and whether continuing aggressive life support measures is in her best interest. Ethan felt his body go cold. You're talking about giving up. I'm talking about making decisions based on medical reality, Dr. Chen replied gently but firmly. Lily's condition has not improved in 3 years. The chances of meaningful recovery at this point are statistically negligible. Statistics don't know my daughter, Ethan shot back, his voice rising. Statistics don't account for miracles. Dr. Chen's expression remained neutral. Mr. Prescott, I understand your faith, but as Lily's physician, I have to advocate for what I believe is best for her. Continuing to keep her body functioning artificially when there's no indication her consciousness will return, raises serious, ethical questions. Patricia spoke before Ethan could reply. "What exactly are you proposing, Doctor?" "I'd like you to consider transitioning to palliative care," Dr. Chen said carefully. "We would continue to make Lily comfortable, but we would discontinue the more invasive life support measures. This would allow her natural processes to take their course." The room seemed to spin around Ethan. "You want me to let my daughter go?" he said, his voice barely audible. "I want you to consider what Lily would want," Dr. Chen corrected gently, "and what kind of life she would have even if, by some remote chance, she were to regain some level of consciousness. The damage to her brain is extensive, Mr. Prescott. Even in the best-case scenario, she would likely have profound disabilities." "I don't care," Ethan said fiercely. "I'd take care of her no matter what." "I know you would," Dr. Chen acknowledged, "but I have to ask you to think about quality of life, hers, not just yours." Patricia placed a steadying hand on Ethan's arm. "How long do we have to make this decision?" Dr. Chen closed the tablet and stood. "There's no immediate deadline, but I wouldn't recommend delaying indefinitely. Lily's condition is stable for now, but that could change at any time." "We need time to think," Patricia said firmly. "This isn't a decision to be made hastily." "Of course," Dr. Chen nodded. "I'll be available whenever you're ready to talk further. And Mr. Prescott, please consider speaking with our grief counselor. She's helped many families through situations like this." After the doctor left, Ethan remained frozen, staring at Lily's peaceful face. The room felt airless, as if all the oxygen had been sucked out along with his hope. "I need some air," he muttered, pulling away from his mother's touch. "Can you stay with her?" Patricia nodded, her eyes filled with worry. "Don't do anything rash, Ethan. We need to think this through carefully." But thinking was the last thing Ethan wanted to do. As he stumbled out of the room and down the corridor, his mind was a chaotic swirl of fear, anger, and desperate denial. The elevator took him to the ground floor, and without any conscious decision, his feet carried him back to the courtyard where he'd met Max earlier that day. The garden was empty, now the afternoon sun casting long shadows across the stone pathways. Ethan collapsed onto the same bench, his head in his hands, a silent scream building in his chest that he dared not release. "You came back." The small voice startled him again. Ethan looked up to find Max standing before him, just as he had earlier. The boy's red hoodie stood out vividly against the muted colors of the garden. "How do you keep appearing like that?" Ethan asked, too emotionally drained to be truly surprised. Max shrugged. "I'm good at being quiet. The doctors said no, didn't they?" Ethan stared at the child, unnerved by his perception. "How could you possibly know that?" "I told you, I know things sometimes." Max sat down beside him, swinging his legs that didn't quite reach the ground. "They want you to give up on Lily, but you shouldn't." "It's not that simple," Ethan said, surprised to find himself discussing such a painful topic with a child he barely knew. "The doctors say she won't get better, that even if she woke up, she wouldn't be the same." Max looked up at the sky, his expression thoughtful. Adults always think they know everything, but they don't. Not really. Despite everything, Ethan felt a small smile tug at his lips. "And you do?" "I know that Lily is stuck," Max said confidently. "She wants to come back, but she can't find her way. She needs help." Ethan studied the boy more carefully. "Max, are you a patient here in the pediatric ward?" Max's eyes met his, startlingly direct. "Kind of, I come and go." "What does that mean?" Instead of answering, Max asked, "Do you want me to help Lily?" Ethan felt a shiver run down his spine. "How could you possibly help her?" "I can reach her," Max said simply. "I can show her the way back." Under normal circumstances, Ethan would have dismissed such a claim as the fanciful imagination of a child. But these weren't normal circumstances. He was a desperate father being told to let go of his only child. In that moment, even the most irrational hope seemed worth clinging to. "What would you do?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I just need to see her," Max replied. "I need to talk to her." "Talk to her?" Lily's in a coma, she can't hear anyone. Max smiled, a mysterious, knowing smile that seemed far too old for his young face. She can hear me. Ethan hesitated, allowing a strange child into his daughter's hospital room went against every protective instinct he had. And yet, there was something about Max, something in his eyes that spoke of wisdom beyond his years. "How do I know I can trust you?" Ethan asked. "You don't," Max answered honestly. "But what else can you do? The doctors want you to let her go. I want to bring her back. Which one sounds better to you?" Put that way, the decision seemed obvious. Ethan stood, his mind made up. "Okay, but if at any point I feel uncomfortable about this, you have to leave immediately." "Understood?" Max nodded solemnly. "Understood." They walked back into the hospital together, an unlikely pair. Ethan led the way to Lily's room, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and a tentative, fragile hope. Outside the door, he paused. "My mother's in there. She might have questions." "That's okay," Max said. "Grandmothers usually like me." Ethan couldn't help but smile at the boy's confidence. He pushed open the door to find Patricia dozing in the chair beside Lily's bed, a book open on her lap. She startled awake at their entrance. "Ethan, I was worried." Her eyes fell on Max and she frowned in confusion. "Who's this?" "Mom, this is Max," Ethan said, trying to sound casual. "He's from the pediatric ward. He wanted to visit Lily." Patricia's frown deepened. "Visit? Ethan, I don't think—" "It's okay, Mrs. Prescott," Max interrupted, his voice surprisingly mature. "I know what it's like to be stuck between places. I thought maybe I could help Lily not feel so alone." Patricia's expression softened instantly, maternal instinct responding to the child's apparent vulnerability. "Oh, I see. That's very thoughtful of you. Max." Max approached Lily's bedside slowly, his eyes fixed on her face with an intensity that was almost unnerving. He studied her for a long moment, then turned to Ethan. "Can I touch her hand?" Ethan hesitated, looking to his mother for guidance. Patricia seemed as uncertain as he felt, but she gave a small nod. "I suppose that would be all right," Ethan said cautiously. Max stepped closer to the bed. With gentle reverence, he reached out and placed his small hand over Lily's. The contrast was striking, his warm pink skin against her pale, still fingers. For a moment, nothing happened. The room remained silent except for the steady beeping of the monitors. Then Max closed his eyes. His lips began to move, forming words so quiet that neither Ethan nor Patricia could hear them. Something in the air seemed to change, a subtle shift in pressure, a faint charge of electricity that made the hairs on Ethan's arms stand up. "What is he doing?" Patricia whispered, her voice trembling slightly. Ethan shook his head, unable to answer. He watched, transfixed, as Max continued his silent communion with Lily. The boy's face had taken on an expression of deep concentration, his brow furrowed, his shoulders tense. And then, a miracle. Lily's index finger twitched beneath Max's. "How did you see that?" Ethan gasped, rushing to the bedside. Her finger moved. Patricia was already on her feet, her book clattering to the floor. I saw it too." Max opened his eyes, looking suddenly tired. He withdrew his hand from Lily's and stepped back. "She's still far away," he said softly, "but she heard me. She knows someone is looking for her." The monitors attached to Lily began to register subtle changes. Her heart rate increased slightly, and the EEG showed small but definite spikes in brain activity. Ethan stared at the readings in disbelief, then back at his daughter's face. Nothing there had changed. Her eyes remained closed, her features serene, but something had definitely happened. "How did you do that?" he asked Max, his voice hushed with awe. Max shrugged, suddenly looking very much like the child he was. "I just talked to her, in the place where she is." Before Ethan could press for more details, the door opened, and Nurse Wheeler entered the room. She stopped short when she saw Max. "Max Sullivan, what on earth are you doing in here?" Her tone was scolding but affectionate. "You know you're not supposed to be wandering around the hospital." "I'm sorry, Ms. Wheeler," Max replied, not sounding particularly contrite. "I wanted to visit Lily." The nurse looked from Max to Ethan and Patricia, clearly confused. "You know, these people, we met in the courtyard earlier," Ethan explained quickly. "Max was kind enough to offer some comfort." Nurse Wheeler's expression softened. "Well, that's very sweet of you, Max, but you need to get back to your floor now. Dr. Reynolds has been looking for you." Max nodded reluctantly. He turned to Ethan, his blue eyes intense once more. "I need to come back tomorrow. She's listening now. She knows someone is trying to reach her." Ethan knelt down to the boy's level. "Will they let you come back?" "I'll find a way," Max said confidently. Then, in a whisper, meant only for Ethan, "Don't tell the doctors what happened. They wouldn't understand." With that cryptic warning, Max allowed Nurse Wheeler to lead him from the room. As the door closed behind them, Ethan and Patricia turned to each other, equal parts hope and disbelief etched on their faces. "Did that really just happen?" Patricia asked, her voice shaking. "Did her finger actually move?" Ethan nodded, his heart racing. "And look at the monitors. Her brain activity changed. It's subtle, but it's there." Patricia sank back into her chair, her hand pressed to her chest. "Who is that boy, Ethan? How did he do that?" "I don't know," Ethan admitted. "But he said he could help her. And after what we just saw, it could be coincidence," Patricia suggested weakly, though her expression said she didn't believe that any more than Ethan did. Ethan moved to Lily's side, taking her hand in his own. "Lily, sweet pea, can you hear me? If you can hear me, try to move your finger again." They both watched intently, but Lily remained still. The spike in her readings had already begun to normalize. Whatever connection Max had established seemed to have faded with his departure. "We should tell Dr. Chen," Patricia said. "This could be significant." Ethan remembered Max's warning. "No, not yet. Let's wait and see what happens when Max comes back tomorrow." "Ethan, if Lily is showing signs of responsiveness, her doctors need to know immediately." "Mom, think about it. What would we tell them? That a strange boy from the pediatric ward came in, held Lily's hand, whispered something we couldn't hear, and miraculously made her finger move? They'd think we were desperate and delusional." Patricia frowned. "When you put it that way, let's just wait," Ethan pleaded. "One more day. If Max can do something more substantial, something the doctors can't dismiss, then we'll tell them." After a moment of consideration, Patricia nodded reluctantly. "One day, but if nothing happens when he comes back, we go straight to Dr. Chen." "Deal?" "Deal," Ethan agreed, his eyes still fixed on Lily's face, searching for any sign of the awareness that had briefly flickered to life under Max's touch. The rest of the day passed in a state of heightened anticipation. Ethan found himself watching Lily more closely than ever, jumping at every beep of the monitors, holding his breath whenever a nurse came in to check her vitals. But there were no further signs of responsiveness. By evening, doubt had begun to creep back in. Had they imagined it? Had the movement been nothing more than a random muscle spasm? Patricia left around 8 o'clock, extracting a promise from Ethan that he would try to get some sleep in the recliner chair beside Lily's bed. Once alone with his daughter, Ethan allowed himself to hope in a way he hadn't dared to in years. "Lily," he whispered, holding her small hand between both of his. "I don't know if you can hear me, but something happened today. Something amazing. There's a boy named Max, and he seems to think he can help you find your way back to me. I know it sounds crazy, but I saw you move today. I saw you respond. So, if you're in there, if you can hear me at all, please keep fighting. Keep trying to come back to me." Ethan did try to sleep that night, but rest was elusive. His mind kept replaying the moment of Lily's finger twitching, the strange intensity in Max's eyes, the inexplicable feeling that had permeated the room during those few seconds of connection. Morning came with no change in Lily's condition. Ethan showered in the small bathroom attached to her private room, changed into fresh clothes that Patricia had brought from home, and tried to prepare himself for whatever the day might bring. Would Max return as promised? And if he did, could he truly help Lily wake up? Around 10 o'clock, Dr. Chen arrived to do her morning rounds. Ethan tensed as she examined Lily, checking the monitors and making notes on her tablet. Would she notice any changes from yesterday? Would the machines betray the brief spark of activity they had witnessed? Everything looked stable, Dr. Chen said finally, her tone neutral. No change from yesterday. Ethan felt a mixture of relief and disappointment. That's good, I guess. Dr. Chen regarded him with compassion. Have you given any more thought to our conversation yesterday? I need more time, Ethan replied, avoiding her gaze. It's not a decision I can make quickly. Of course, she said gently. Just remember that our team is here to support you, whatever you decide. After she left, Ethan paced the room anxiously. The morning stretched on with no sign of Max. Noon, he was beginning to worry that the boy wouldn't come at all. Had yesterday been a one-time occurrence, a fluke that would never be repeated? Just as Ethan was considering going to the pediatric ward to look for Max himself, the door to Lily's room opened. But instead of the boy he was expecting, a woman entered. Tall, slender, with chestnut hair pulled back in an elegant ponytail and designer sunglasses pushed up on her head. Rebecca. Ethan froze, unprepared for the sight of his ex, whom he hadn't seen in over a year. She looked exactly as he remembered, yet somehow like a stranger, polished, composed, belonging to a world he no longer inhabited. Ethan, she said, her voice wavering slightly. Your mother called me. She said there might have been a change. Ethan silently cursed his mother's interference. It was nothing definitive, he said stiffly. Just a small movement, probably a reflex. Rebecca approached Lily's bedside slowly, as if afraid to get too close. She looks the same, she whispered, a catch in her voice. What did you expect? Ethan couldn't keep the bitterness from his tone. You haven't seen her in 14 months. Did you think she'd suddenly be sitting up and asking for you? Rebecca winced at the jab but didn't retaliate. I deserved that, she admitted. I know I haven't been here. I know I've been absent. That's one word for it, Ethan muttered. Rebecca turned to face him fully, her green eyes, so like Lily's, filled with tears. I couldn't do it, Ethan. I couldn't sit here day after day watching our daughter slip away with no hope of recovery. It was killing me. So you ran away. To Europe instead, Ethan said flatly. Started a new life, found a new man, forgot about us. I never forgot. Rebecca's voice rose, then immediately lowered as she glanced at Lily. Not for one single day. Do you think I don't think about her every morning when I wake up? Every night before I sleep? Do you think I don't carry the weight of this guilt everywhere I go? Ethan's retort died on his lips as the door opened again. This time, it was Max who entered, his red hoodie as vibrant as ever, against the sterile whites and blues of the hospital room. He paused when he saw Rebecca, his eyes darting between the two adults. I can come back later, he said quietly, already backing toward the door. No! Ethan moved quickly to intercept him. No, Max. Please stay. This is Rebecca, Lily's mother. Rebecca, this is Max. He's a friend. Rebecca looked bewildered but managed a polite smile. Hello, Max. Max studied her with that same unnerving intensity he directed at Lily the day before. You've been away a long time, he said, not as an accusation, but as a simple statement of fact. You're scared of what might happen if she wakes up. Rebecca's smile faltered. What? Ethan placed a hand on Max's shoulder. Max has a way of perceiving things, he explained awkwardly. He's been visiting Lily. I see, Rebecca said, though clearly she didn't. That's very kind of you, Max. Max approached Lily's bedside, seemingly oblivious to the tension in the room. She's closer today, he announced, studying her face. She heard me yesterday. She's been trying to find her way back. Rebecca shot Ethan a questioning look. He gave a small shrug, silently pleading with her not to interfere. Whatever skepticism she might have felt, she kept it to herself, watching with guarded curiosity as Max took up position beside Lily. Can I try again? Max asked Ethan, his small face serious. Please. Ethan nodded, heart hammering in his chest. Max placed both his hands on Lily's this time. As before, he closed his eyes and began to whisper words too soft to hear. The atmosphere in the room seemed to change, the air becoming somehow thicker, charged with an energy that raised goosebumps. On Ethan's arms, Rebecca gasped softly, her hand flying to her mouth as she felt it too. She moved closer to Ethan, instinctively seeking the familiarity of his presence in the face of something inexplicable. For long moments, nothing visible happened. Then, as they watched in astonished silence, Lily's eyelids began to flutter. Not the random movements sometimes seen in coma patients, but deliberate, struggling attempts to open. "Oh my God," Rebecca breathed, clutching Ethan's arm. "Ethan, look!" "I see it," he whispered, afraid to speak too loudly, as if the miracle before them might vanish at the sound of his voice. Max continued his silent communion, his small body tense with effort. Sweat beaded on his forehead, and his face had gone pale. Whatever he was doing, it was clearly taxing him. The monitors began to register significant changes. Lily's heart rate increased, her breathing became more pronounced, and the EEG showed dramatic spikes in brain activity. And then, the moment Ethan had prayed for every day for 3 years, her eyes opened. They were unfocused at first, staring at nothing. Then, slowly, as if drawn by an invisible force, they turned toward Max. Recognition flickered across her face, not the confusion one might expect after years of unconsciousness, but a look of profound understanding. "Max," she whispered, her voice hoarse from years of disuse. "You came." Ethan and Rebecca surged forward together, tears streaming down their faces. "Lily?" Ethan called, his voice breaking. "Sweet pea, can you hear me?" Lily's gaze shifted slowly from Max to her father. A small, weak smile curved her lips. "Daddy," she breathed, "I found you." Ethan fell to his knees beside the bed, taking her, hand in his. "Yes, baby, yes, I'm here. I've always been here." Rebecca reached for Lily's other hand, her body shaking with sobs. "Lily, my darling, my baby." Lily turned to her mother, her expression softening further. "Mommy, don't cry." The door burst open as nurses and doctors, alerted by the dramatic changes in Lily's vital signs, rushed into the room. Dr. Chen froze in the doorway, her professional composure momentarily shattered by the sight of her long comatose patient awake and speaking. "This is impossible," she murmured, then snapped back into doctor mode. "Everyone except immediate family needs to step out now. We need to examine her immediately." In the commotion, no one noticed Max slip quietly away from the bedside and toward the door. No one except Lily, whose eyes followed him with an expression of profound gratitude. "Thank you," she mouthed as he reached the threshold. Max gave her a small smile and a nod before disappearing into the corridor. The next few hours were a whirlwind of tests, examinations, and explanations that failed to explain anything at all. Dr. Chen and her team were baffled by Lily's sudden awakening, and even more so by her apparent lucidity. Patients emerging from prolonged comas typically experienced significant confusion, disorientation, and often had little to no memory of their lives before. Lily, however, recognized her parents immediately, knew her own name, and even asked about her grandmother. "I don't understand it," Dr. Chen admitted, reviewing Lily's latest scans with Ethan and Rebecca in the corridor outside her room. The damage to her brain was extensive. By all medical logic, she shouldn't even be conscious, let alone coherent. "But she is," Ethan said, unwilling to question the miracle they'd been given. "She's awake, she's talking, she knows who we are." "Yes," Dr. Chen agreed, "and while that's wonderful, it's also scientifically inexplicable. We need to run more tests to understand what's happening here." "Is she going to be okay?" Rebecca asked, her voice small and fearful. Is she really back?" Dr. Chen's expression softened. "It's too early to make any definitive statements. The fact that she's conscious and coherent is incredibly promising, but we need to monitor her closely. There could still be complications we haven't identified yet." "Can we see her again?" Ethan asked. The separation, even for these brief consultations, was almost unbearable now that Lily was finally awake. "Of course," Dr. Chen nodded. "She's asking for you both. Just remember, she's still very weak. Don't overwhelm her." They returned to find Lily propped up slightly in bed, her eyes clearer than before, taking in her surroundings with quiet curiosity. She smiled when she saw them, a real smile that lit up her face despite her obvious exhaustion. "Daddy, Mommy," she greeted them, her voice stronger now. "The doctors asked me so many questions." Ethan and Rebecca positioned themselves on either side of her bed, each taking one of her hands. The simple act of seeing her respond to their touch was overwhelming. "They just want to make sure you're okay, sweet pea," Ethan explained, stroking her hair gently. "You've been asleep for a very long time." Lily nodded solemnly. 3 years. 2 months and 14 days, she said. "Max told me." Ethan and Rebecca exchanged startled glances. "Lily," Rebecca began carefully, "how do you know Max? When did you meet him?" "In the in-between place," Lily answered matter-of-factly. "That's where I was, not asleep, not awake, just in between. Max found me there. He said he knew the way back because he goes back and forth all the time." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. "Goes back and forth between where, sweet pea?" Lily's brow furrowed in concentration. "Between here and somewhere else. He said it wasn't time for me to go to the somewhere else. He said you were waiting for me and that I needed to come back." Rebecca squeezed Ethan's hand across the bed, her eyes wide with a mixture of wonder and fear. "Lily, honey, do you remember what happened? The accident?" Lily nodded again. "The car crashed. It was raining. Everything went dark. And then I was in the in-between place. I could hear you sometimes, Daddy. You read me stories and told me about the snow and the leaves changing. But I couldn't answer you. I was too far away." Tears filled Ethan's eyes. All those hours of one-sided conversations, all those stories and updates and desperate pleas. She had heard them. She had been there all along, just unable to respond. "Max helped me find the way back," Lily continued. "He held my hand and showed me how to follow his voice. It was hard at first, like swimming through something thick and dark. But then it got easier and I could see a light, and I knew you were on the other side of it." "Who is Max, Lily?" Ethan asked gently. "Do you know?" Lily's eyes drifted toward the window where the afternoon sun cast golden light across her bed. "He's a helper," she said simply. "He helps people who are lost find their way home." There was something in her tone that discouraged further questions on that subject. Instead, Rebecca asked, "How are you feeling now, sweetheart?" "Tired," Lily admitted, "but happy to be back. I missed you." She looked directly at her mother, adding, "Even when you were far away, I still felt you missing me too." Rebecca's composure crumbled at these words. She buried her face in Lily's blanket, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Lily placed a small hand on her mother's head, patting her hair with surprising tenderness. "It's okay, Mommy," she soothed. "I'm not mad at you. Max explained that sometimes grown-ups get too sad and have to go away for a while. But you came back when I needed you." As evening approached, Lily drifted into a natural sleep, not the unresponsive state of the past 3 years, but the peaceful slumber of a child recovering from exhaustion. The doctors assured Ethan and Rebecca that this was normal and even healthy, though they would continue to monitor her closely throughout the night. Patricia had arrived shortly after receiving the news, her joy spilling over in tears and laughter as she beheld her granddaughter awake and talking. Now, with Lily sleeping and Rebecca staying by her side, Ethan and his mother retreated to the hospital cafeteria for a much-needed break. "It's a miracle," Patricia said for perhaps the dozenth time, her hands trembling around her coffee cup. "The doctors can't explain it. They're calling it unprecedented." Ethan nodded, his mind elsewhere. "I need to find Max," he said suddenly. "I need to thank him, to understand what happened." Patricia reached across the table to squeeze his hand. "Ethan, I know you believe this boy somehow helped Lily, but maybe it was just her time to wake up. Maybe her brain finally healed enough on its own." "You weren't there, Mom," Ethan insisted. "You didn't see what happened when he touched her. There was something impossible about it, and Lily knows him. She said he found her in the in-between place and showed her the way back. How would she know that if it wasn't true?" Patricia sighed, not arguing further. "So what will you do? Go to the pediatric ward and ask about him?" "That's exactly what I'm going to do," Ethan said, standing up. "Will you go back and sit with Lily? I don't want her to wake up alone." "Of course," Patricia agreed. "Rebecca and I will take good care of her. Go find your answers." Ethan made his way to the pediatric floor, his mind racing with questions. Who was Max Sullivan, really? How had he done what all of modern medicine couldn't accomplish in 3 years? And why had he chosen to help Lily? At the nurse's station, he was greeted by a friendly-looking woman with graying hair and rainbow-patterned scrubs. Her name tag identified her as Nurse Carolyn Jenkins, the same nurse who had collected Max from the courtyard that first day. "Excuse me," Ethan began. "I'm looking for a patient named Max Sullivan. He's been visiting my daughter, and I'd like to thank him." Nurse Jenkins frowned, her expression puzzled. "Max Sullivan? I'm sorry, but we don't have any patient by that name on this floor." Ethan's heart sank. "He's about 10 years old, sandy hair, blue eyes, wears a red hoodie. You came to get him from the courtyard 2 days ago." The nurse's eyes widened in recognition. "Oh, you must mean Maxie, but he's not a patient here, Mr. Prescott, Ethan Prescott. My daughter is Lily Prescott in the long-term care unit. She woke up today after 3 years in a coma." "Oh my goodness," Nurse Jenkins gasped. "That's wonderful news, but I'm afraid I don't understand what this has to do with Maxie." Ethan explained as best he could about Max's visits and the miraculous awakening that had followed. The nurse listened with growing bewilderment. "Mr. Prescott, Maxie is our therapy dog," she said when he had finished. "He's a golden retriever that comes in with a handler 3 times a week to visit the children. I've never seen any boy matching." "The description you gave." Ethan stared at her, certain he had misheard. "That's impossible. I spoke with him. My mother saw him too. He came to Lily's room twice. He broke off, unsure how to continue without sounding completely deranged. "Nurse?" Jenkins' expression softened with compassion. "I understand this is a confusing time for you. Sometimes when we're under extreme stress, our minds can play tricks on us." "I'm not hallucinating," Ethan said firmly. "Max is real. He helped my daughter wake up. Nurse Wheeler saw him too. She came to get him from Lily's room yesterday." "Amanda Wheeler from the ICU?" "Yes, that's her." Nurse Jenkins looked troubled now. "Mr. Prescott, Nurse Wheeler retired over a year ago. She moved to Florida to be closer to her grandchildren." Ethan felt the floor shift beneath him. This couldn't be happening. Max was real. He had spoken. To him, touched him. Lily knew him. How could everyone deny his existence? "Wait here," he said abruptly. "I'm going to get my phone from Lily's room. I have pictures of her visitors in my cloud storage. I can show you what Max looks like." He hurried back to Lily's room, where he found his mother and Rebecca chatting quietly, while Lily continued to sleep peacefully. He grabbed his phone from the side table, earning questioning looks from both women. "I'll explain later," he promised, already scrolling through his photo archive as he left the room. Back at the nurse's station, Ethan pulled up the folder containing pictures he'd taken of Lily's visitors over the years, a habit he'd started to share updates with Rebecca when she'd first moved abroad. He scrolled through dozens of images of friends, family members, and hospital staff who had stopped by searching for any glimpse of Max. There was nothing. No red hoodie, no sandy-haired boy with intense blue eyes. It was as if Max had never existed. Defeated and confused, Ethan thanked Nurse Jenkins for her time and wandered down to the hospital's small chapel, seeking solitude to process his thoughts. The space was empty, lit only by a few electric candles that cast soft, flickering shadows on the walls. Ethan sank into a pew, his mind reeling. Was he losing his grip on reality? Had the stress and grief of the past 3 years finally broken something in his mind? But no. His mother had seen Max too, and Lily knew him, had spoken of him with such certainty. "You won't find me in your pictures," a soft voice said from behind him. Ethan whirled around to find Max standing in the chapel doorway, his red hoodie almost glowing in the dim light. "Max!" Ethan stood, relief washing over him. "Where have you been? I've been looking everywhere for you. The nurses say you don't exist, that there's no patient by your name." Max smiled, that same enigmatic smile that seemed too old for his young face. They're right. I'm not a patient here. Then who are you? Ethan asked, moving closer. How did you help Lily? Why did you help her? Instead of answering directly, Max gestured to the pew. Sit with me for a minute. Ethan complied, lowering himself back onto the wooden bench. Max sat beside him, his legs swinging slightly above the floor. Do you remember the accident? Max asked, his voice soft but clear in the quiet chapel. Parts of it, Ethan admitted. The rain, the skidding, the impact, it's mostly a blur. There was another car, Max said. A blue sedan, do you remember? Ethan frowned, searching his fragmented memories. Maybe. Yes, I think there was. The police report mentioned it. They were hurt too, I think. Max nodded. A family. Mom, Dad, and their son, 10 years old. A chill ran down Ethan's spine. Max, what are you telling me? The boy in that car was named Maxwell David Sullivan, Max said, looking straight ahead at the small altar. Everyone called him Max. He was on his way home from a baseball game with his parents. It was his first season playing Little League. He had just hit his first home run that day. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. Max! I need you to look something up, Max continued, as if he hadn't heard. On your phone, look up Maxwell Sullivan Boston accident and see what you find. With trembling hands, Ethan unlocked his phone and typed the search terms. The results loaded quickly, displaying a news article from 3 years earlier. The headline made his blood run cold. Local family involved in fatal collision on Route 93. 10-year-old boy succumbs to injuries. The article included a school photograph of a smiling boy with sandy hair and bright blue eyes. Maxwell David. Sullivan, beloved son of David and Catherine Sullivan, had lost his life in the same accident that had put Lily in a coma. Ethan looked up from his phone to find Max watching him, those same blue eyes now filled with understanding. You're... Ethan couldn't finish the sentence. I was, Max corrected gently. Now I'm something else, someone who helps lost souls find their way home or their way back if it's not their time yet. A spirit, Ethan whispered. An angel. Max shrugged. Those are just words, names for things people don't understand. What matters is that Lily needed help and I could give it. But why? Ethan asked, his voice breaking. Why would you help us? It was my car that... He stopped, unable to continue. It was an accident, Max said firmly. The rain, the road, no one was to blame, and Lily, she has so much life ahead of her. So many things to do, people to love, places to see. It wasn't her time to leave. Tears streamed down Ethan's face unchecked. I don't know how to thank you. What you've given us, it's beyond anything. You don't need to thank me, Max smiled. Just promise me something. Anything, Ethan vowed. Live fully, Max said simply. Both of you. Don't waste a single moment. Love deeply. Forgive easily. And remember that there's more to this world than what most people see or understand. Ethan nodded, his throat too tight for words. I have to go now, Max said, standing up. Others need me too. Will we ever see you again? Ethan asked, rising. To his feet. Max's smile widened. I'm always around. Lily will know that even if she can't explain it. And someday, many years from now, I'll be there to show you both the way to what comes next. But not for a long, long time. He stepped back, and for a moment, Ethan thought he saw something shimmer around the boy's form, a soft light that seemed to come from within rather than without. Goodbye. Mr. Prescott, Max said. Take care of Lily. She's special. She can see things others can't. She'll remember the in-between place, even though most people forget. Goodbye, Max, Ethan whispered, and thank you for everything. With a final smile and a small wave, Max turned and walked out of the chapel. Ethan followed, but when he reached the doorway, the corridor beyond was empty. Max had vanished. In the days that followed, Lily's recovery continued to baffle the medical community. Tests revealed no lasting damage to her brain, despite the previous scans that had shown significant trauma. Physical therapy helped her regain her strength remarkably quickly, and within weeks she was walking again, her movements becoming more confident by the day. Rebecca decided to stay in Boston, taking an extended leave from her job in Switzerland. The rift between her and Ethan began to heal as they focused on their daughter's miraculous second chance. They didn't discuss reconciliation. Too much had changed for both of them, but they found a new kind of friendship built on shared gratitude and the love they both had for Lily. One sunny afternoon, a month after Lily's awakening, Ethan took her to the courtyard garden where he had first met Max. She sat beside him on the same bench, swinging her legs much as Max had done. "Do you think about him?" Ethan asked quietly. "About Max?" Lily nodded, her eyes on a butterfly that danced among the flowers. "Every day. He visits me sometimes, in my dreams. He says he's making sure I'm okay." Ethan put his arm around her small shoulders. "Do you understand who he is? What happened to him?" "He had to go away," Lily said carefully. "But not really away, just to a different place. And now he helps people who are lost." "Like you were." "Like I was," she agreed. "And he said to tell you that his parents are okay now. They were sad for a long time, but they're finding their way back to happiness. He said they have a new baby, a little sister for him. Her middle name is Maxine." Ethan caught his breath. He had never told Lily about Max's parents or what had happened to their son. "How do you know that, sweet pea?" Lily looked up at him, her green eyes bright with a wisdom beyond her years. "I told you. He visits me in my dreams. He tells me things. Important things." "Like what?" "Like how we should live our lives now, how we shouldn't waste time being sad about what happened before, how every day is a gift." She leaned against him, her head resting on his chest. "He said I should tell you that it's okay to be happy again, that you don't have to sit by my bed anymore, that we both need to go out and live." Ethan held his daughter close, overwhelmed by the simple profundity of her words, of Max's words. "I think he's right," he said finally. "I think it's time for both of us to start living again." Lily smiled up at him. "Can we get ice cream? Max says the chocolate here is really good." Ethan laughed, feeling lighter than he had in years. "Absolutely, ice cream sounds perfect." As they walked hand in hand toward the hospital cafeteria, Ethan glanced back at the garden bench. For just a moment, he thought he saw a flash of red among the greenery, a small figure watching them with a smile of pure joy. Then it was gone like a sunbeam shifting through leaves. But Ethan wasn't sad. He knew now that some connections transcended the boundaries between worlds, that love could bridge even the most impossible divides, and that miracles, real miracles, could happen when you least expected them. And somewhere, in a place beyond,